Lasker was the world champ for 27 years, longer than anyone. And a couple years ago, I recorded a video covering his favorite rule that allowed him to be so consistent. You guys loved it, and today I decided to record a continuation showing you how Carlsen and other top players still use this rule to dominate chess nowadays. Here's a recent game between Praggnanandhaa against Gukesh. Gukesh has just played rook to d8, offering an exchange of rooks across the d-file. What would you play here as white? In such positions, most players just automatically capture because it's the most obvious move to play. However, the problem is, the position is quite symmetric, and if you just trade off pieces, you'll end up with a draw. And therefore, after some thinking, Pragg applied Lasker's rule. When you see a good move, look for a better one. And with that being said, he found a much more interesting move, knight to e5. At first, this may seem like a blunder. How about black simply capturing this knight? But of course, it's not that simple. In that case, the rook on d8 will be left undefended, and white would simply capture it, and black can't do that. What if black trades rooks first? Well, even after that, he still cannot take that knight in the middle of the board due to the same move rook to d8, and this time it even comes with a back rank checkmate. Now, of course, black does not have to blunder a checkmating one, but nevertheless, white is putting pressure, black is behind in development, and later Pragg won with almost 100% accuracy. Which raises a question: is he a cheater? But no, I think he's just playing like a computer program. In the next game, Carlsen was playing white against a young prodigy, and here you've got a rare opportunity to find a move better than what Carlsen played. But let's first discover what Carlsen played here. White is attacking, he's down a piece, and definitely he wants to checkmate black. Carlsen played the most natural looking move, knight to g5, threatening queen to h7 checkmate. But the only problem is, it is black to play, and of course, black can do something. Black played rook e8, now his king is ready to run away, there is no checkmate, Carlsen is down a piece, and he lost the game later. The problem with such tempting moves is that they actually get you into that tunnel vision, where you don't think it through, but also you stop thinking about alternatives. And in this position it is especially sad because white missed an opportunity to win the game basically in 3 moves to just checkmate black. And how do you find that winning shot? Well, you apply that CCTV idea. Look for checks, captures, and threats. Just scan the position for them. And there was this check which totally exposes the king, and then you keep delivering checks. And within a couple moves, black is totally defenseless, you lift the rook, and it's a checkmate. This is one of the best chess examples I've ever seen. Here black's got this really strong passed pawn, he's attacking, all these checks are coming, and it looks like there's no hope for white. However, it was white to play, and white's got here a brilliant idea, this queen sacrifice, queen to e4. That checks the king and sacrifices the queen, but black can't take it, because in that case, there is a very unusual pawn checkmate. How would you play here as black? The most obvious solution is realizing that capturing the queen is not an option, however, you've got this fancy counter check, and then, after a trade of queens, you're now going to promote a new queen and win the game easily, right? Wrong, because after queen to f4, although it is very cool to give a counter check in chess, white actually has an even cooler solution, which is a counter checkmate. That's why even when the move is tempting or even obvious, it's still important to calculate it through. A puzzle a day keeps losses away. Now it's time for you to practice. If you can find the winning shot for white here, please let me know in the comments down below. And here's how Lasker's rule works in my favorite bishop's opening. For example, here, as you gambit the central pawn and turn it into the Stafford gambit, essentially with reversed color, then black needs to guard their central pawn, but they're already lost because now they can't defend their f7 pawn and therefore their king. For example, after this move or anything else, you can capture the pawn and the king comes to d8. Now, how would you play in this position as white? Most players notice that these pieces are somewhat shaky and black can play h6, and if the knight goes away, the bishop will be lost, and therefore they just retreat the bishop somewhere along this diagonal. And there is nothing wrong with that move, it does save the bishop, and white still has a great position after that because of this weak king. However, it misses an opportunity to win the game on the spot. Can you see it now? Yes, you still need to look for checks, captures, and threats. Remember that CCTVs can. And here we've got to move knight to e6, which is a brilliant idea. Why can't black capture it? Because the pawn is pinned. And otherwise, the king is in check, black will have to give up the queen, and they still cannot take it because of the pin, therefore white will be easily winning. Here it's white to play, and it's interesting that the white player, Bogolyubov, was one of the top players at the time, twice the world champion challenger, and he played a bunch of games against Lasker, but usually lost badly. However, he learned the rule, he learned the lesson. and now he had a brilliant opportunity to apply it. In this position, again, it's white to move, and most players would probably just trade off knights. Now, if you've been following this channel for a while, you know that to take is a mistake. You should avoid unmotivated exchanges, but most players would just go into that direction. However, there is nothing special, and that only helps black to equalize the game. Now, by the way, there is an interesting trick here about tempted moves and the necessity to calculate them. There is a move bishop b5, which looks winning at first, as that is a discovered attack off the queen. And it looks like black is about to lose it. However, black's got a pretty simple defense, king to e7. Now both the queen is defended, and also white's bishop is attacked, therefore white will have to waste time retreating the bishop, and black is fine. Here, Bogolyubov applied Lasker's rule and found a brilliant idea, bishop g6. Out of this world move, which is very hard to find or even to think about otherwise. And what is the point? Now both the bishop and this knight on c4 is left undefended. What if black captures the knight? In that case, we will see the point of that bishop move. There is rook takes e6, out of nowhere, winning combo, and the bishop here pins the pawn. That was the point. Now the black king has to move, but that will leave this queen undefended, and white wins. In the actual game, black chose to take the bishop instead, but now after knight takes d6, white is winning a piece, this bishop on b7, and black resigned in a few moves. By the way, you guys have asked me about a collection of all the golden rules in one place, and I have it. It's called Level Up Your Chess, where I've put together all these most essential rules for every stage of the game that I've accumulated over 30 years of playing and coaching chess. And if you're interested, I'll drop a link down below in the video description. In my previous video about Lasker's rule, you guys were jokingly writing in comments, when you see mate in one, look for a better one. And so, I found a position where it applies. It is white to move, and yes, you've got checkmate in one, and probably many other ways to win the game quickly. However, there is a much better way of going about things. And of course, I understand somebody will say, like, why would you ever do that? Which reminds me a scene from the old movie Troy, where a boy says something similar to the main character, the hero, and the boy says something like, I would never do this. And here is what the hero replied.
That's why no one will remember your name.
That's why now white is going for the eternal glory. He sacrificed the pawn and then grabs this knight on d3, kind of like Fischer's rule, right? Eliminate opponent's pieces on your side of the board. And then he keeps sacrificing more and more material. Then he keeps sacrificing, oh, well, this case, white actually promotes a queen with a check, but then he keeps sacrificing common sense. And now you see where it's going, right? After a couple more sacrifices, white puts black's king in this perfect cage and delivers this nightmare checkmate. I saved the best for last. Here, Lasker himself demonstrates his rule. In this position, it was white to play. Lasker was playing against his long-term rival, Capablanca, and now white's got these double rooks along the open file, and the most natural move for white to play would be to just probably move the rook somewhere forward. And there's nothing wrong with that move. However, that would only lead to an exchange of rooks. And Lasker applied his rule, and he was looking for something more impressive. Then he realized a couple of things about the position. First off, white's both rooks are very active. This knight on e6 is monstrous, but there is this knight on c3 that does nothing, and white would love to somehow find a way to reroute it to a better square. And number two is black, Capablanca, would probably wish to reroute his own knight to this excellent central square on e5. And Lasker found the move that pursues these both ideas. He played e5, sacrificing the pawn. And now, after the pawn sacrifice was accepted, first of all, Capablanca's knight will never be able to land to this square anymore, but even more importantly, Lasker could now include his final piece into the attack, threatening knight f6 with a triple fork, and once black covered that, now after knight to c5, there's a real issue for black. This is a double attack, and the rook cannot really go away, because in that case, the other knight would jump forward with even more forks, and black would still lose material. Capablanca chose to instead just give up the exchange, but it certainly doesn't help. Now white simply starts invading, and within a couple moves, black resigned, because now white's got a whole lot of threats. The bishop is pinned, the rooks are monstrous, and something like this or this is coming, and white is winning. And if you want to know Fischer's golden rule, check it right here, and I'll wait for you on the other side.